The underdog. The long shot. The nobody from nowhere, never gonna happen 100 to 1 shot. We know something about that. We're with you every step of the way.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's Thursday 30. I'm Matt Stradley, and I'm joined by two special guests today, Coach Williams and Coach Puett, the co-head coaches of track and field here for the Bulldogs. Coach Puett, Williams, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Of course. This Thursday 30 brought to you by Ingles Markets. Low prices, love the savings. Very recently named co-head coaches, but you've been with UNC Asheville for a while. What's kept, we'll start with Coach Williams, and then Coach Puett will be the same question. What's kept you at Asheville for how the length of time that you've been here?
Really like the area, and I'd like to see the evolution of the school and the athletic department, how much it's grown since I've been here, and how much even student involvement has increased, or student interest has increased in athletics. So, just those things keeping me interested, and like I said, just really like the area. Lived in Western North Carolina now for close to 30 years. So,
Coach Puett, what about you? What's kept you with the Bulldogs?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. I think it's a great university. You get the best of both worlds in the sense of a great city, but then a great small university where you can build a lot of relationships. I love Western North Carolina. I've been here, I think this is my 19th year in Western North Carolina. My wife's from here as well, and, all her family. So just kind of having that family relationship with her, and then, just being in a great place where you can go downtown and enjoy yourself. You can go into the middle of nowhere in a sense, and go for a long run, go for a bike ride, and do the same thing with your athletes. So in terms of being a cross country distance coach, you can really have a lot to explore in this area.
So with the division of labor between you two, most of, if not all, the cross country goes to you, Coach Puett, or how is that split up between you two, or is it just sort of as it comes along, you guys are just collaborating on everything?
Yeah, so I'll really be overseeing the cross country distance athletes, kind of middle distance and up. There's some of we'll call them like long sprint middle distance athletes that, Coach Williams will oversee, and, I'll help, and then kind of vice versa. And so really I'm kind of overseeing that big part of the puzzle. So we have cross country athletes, we have about 28 right now. And then on the track side, I'll obviously be helping Coach Williams, with practices and just general oversight. And then, I work with the pole vaulters as well. So I actually started that last year. So really enjoyed coaching our one athlete in pole vault, and then our multi-event athletes that, our men's decathletes learn the pole vault. And then we brought in a female pole vaulter this year as well. So getting to have a little bit bigger of a group, and keeping that group, keep expanding in a sense.
Coach Williams, between you and Coach Puett, one of the largest rosters of any of the school athletics programs. What's it like to try to keep up with so many athletes?
Well, we'll let you know real soon. We've never been this big. I think last year we started off at 67. We're currently at 80. Now, you never end up at the number you start with, and you can talk to any coach anywhere, and attrition always takes place during the year. You don't want to see anybody leave, but it's just sort of a fact of life. But having more coaches now than we had in the past, the staff isn't completely set right now, but we're pretty set. But having more coaches than we had in years past, for many years we were basically 2.5 positions. Then Adam went to full-time, and then we were 3. And then last year we had 5, 2 of which were part-time. And just having people to provide supervised practices, and people having specialties in different areas makes those things possible, and it provides a higher quality opportunity for the student athletes to really progress.
Coach Williams, you used to be a football coach. Is sort of the teaching of different skills, is it more like a football team than is that the closest analogy you could make?
To me, and I only coached football for 5 years, but to me it's very different, because in football, while you have your own job and you have your assignments, and people always have to remember, do your job first, don't try to do somebody else's job. your success as a team ultimately depends on what everybody else does. That's still true in track because it's still a team sport, even though people call it an individual sport. But there's more of an individual consideration where I'm going to do the best that I can, and I can be successful in my event alone if nobody else was. But you still want a culture where everybody is pushing for each other and competing with each other for relay spots, to be one of the people that go to the conference meet. So there are definitely some similarities, but there's some major differences as well.
Coach Puett, with cross country, what's the importance of teamwork in cross country? Is it just feeling supported, or is there some technical, tactical things on the course that teamwork can help with?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think with getting out there, the men race predominantly 8,000 meters. When you go to the regional and national championships, you're at 10,000 meters. And then for the women, you're at 5,000 meters and 6,000 meters at your races. So, having that support in the back of your head that I'm not just doing this for myself, I'm doing it for the other people that wear that name across my chest. I think when you preach that and you ingrain that culture within your program, that's really important. And you can see people dig a little bit deeper when that's of great importance. And that's why a lot of times I do like recruiting athletes that come from team sports, because sometimes they have that background with them where team is really important and it's not just about me. And then on the other end, if you have people that are very similar in talent, if you have two women that are, between maybe 10 or 20 seconds apart in times, hey, I want you to run as long as you possibly can together, because when you have that person next to you and you're passing other people on teams, like you can sometimes hurt somebody's feelings that when you're passing them, like, oh man, this team just, blew by me and I just got hurt a little bit. Or I'm looking next to me and man, I know I'm tired. And you hear somebody tell you, hey, keep it up. You're doing good. Let's keep going. Let's go get somebody else. Like that mental motivation from that other person can be really key and helpful. There was probably, I think it would have been the 2013 team for women. We were third place in the conference, so kind of one of our best conference finishes in a long while. At that point, we really practiced that team mentality through 75% of the season. We would tell them, we want you to, top 5 women to get through 2 miles together, and then we'd cut them loose. And then when we got to the championship, it was like riding a bike. That's what they were used to, and they were able to just use those tactics. So I think like I said, it's a little bit of both.
Coach Williams, when you're bringing in new athletes or even new disciplines to Asheville, like the pole vault and bringing on a woman pole vaulter, is it tough to sort of establish a new culture in an individual sport, or is it something that it's part of the whole team, and so it's easy to sort of incorporate it in that way?
I would say you can kind of look at that from both, multiple perspectives. One, you have that individual who's been maybe focused on what they could do individually. And like I said, I may be going slightly off topic here, but if you always emphasize the greater good, there's been a lot of research on that if you dig a little deeper, you'll dig a little deeper if you're trying to do the best you can, not only for yourself, but your teammates, your parents, your coach. If you have other reasons for which to push, it gives you more reasons to succeed and to really excel in all the things that it takes for you to be good. And just making people aware that other people are committed to your success as well, and they're committed to their own success. You can't be the one to hold anybody back, but you should be the one to help everybody else accomplish their goals individually and team-wise as well.
Most of the other programs that I talk to, smaller to medium-sized programs, thinking basketball team, soccer team, even the swimming team, golf team, which was definitely on the other end of the spectrum from where y'all are, just from a size perspective. Is it difficult to create sort of a family environment? Do you go for just a close team environment, or do you really try to get that family feel to where and you have that relationship with each of the athletes? And Coach Puett, I'll start with you, and then Coach Williams, because I imagine that it may be a different answer for the different sports or the different disciplines? I'd like to hear from Coach Williams as well on that.
So I really think it's not too hard in terms of creating that environment, and it starts with the coaches of making sure that we're doing things where we can bring a whole group together. Now, with COVID this year, we're not going to be able to put 80 people in a room. That's not going to be possible. So it'll be, we're going to have to figure out different ways that we can do that. But it also starts with a culture from the team as well. We want our upperclassmen to where they're developing that relationship with other, the sprinters are able to, go hang out with the distance runners or the throwers and do different things like every year as a program. And it's something that our athletes have done. And, we support it 100%. They've always had Tracksgiving. So around, so around Thanksgiving time, they have a big get together. And, we rented this past year because we got so big, we rented the Mountain View room, the Ingles Mountain View room up there. And so they were able to have a big get together and have a good time. So one of the hard parts about track and field is we all can't practice together. You like the basketball team, you all come together and it's easy to, I won't say easy, but you put, 14 people out there at practice. But track and field, we have different schedules. And so you have 80 people that are balancing this juggling act of practice times. But when you have team meetings, you consistently talk about the team culture and making sure that we're a family. And even though a family you may not always get along with everybody and be best friends, you have a mutual respect for each other. You have a mutual goal. And if you consistently preach those things over a long period of time, that's how it happens.
And we saw that last year. We probably had the best family sort of environment or feeling or sense, I guess, than we've ever had. And like I said, I've been here 13 years. Coach Puett just finished his 10th. So he's going into his 11th. And even to us, but also to even administrators, a lot of the current student athletes indicated they don't want to see that go away because they saw that was different last year. We had some of that in the past, but probably a little bit more disjointed than we want. And it's really no person's fault. It's just it's just all of us. All of us are the ones that are going to make that happen. We want to see that continue. And you want athletes to see, even though, like I said, you do have different schedules, that this group is working really hard and they may not be doing what you're doing, but they're working really hard and they're disciplined, they're dedicated, and they're working towards their goals. It doesn't matter if it looks exactly like what I'm doing. Certain things are the same, but other things obviously are event specific, and they should be. But you want people to know that everybody's working towards these goals, these team goals, these individual goals. And we have to all respect and appreciate what other people are doing, and that they're all working hard, assuming they are all working hard. Usually that is the case.
Is there a lot of peer accountability on that, Coach Williams, where if there's not some hard work going on that before you can even get to them, at least in the past, that the team has been like, look?
Yes, absolutely. And that's to what Adam said, is we can set a theme and we can set sort of like try to establish a culture, but the culture really is only going to fully complete, or you're really only going to reach those goals if they buy in and they start handling things at the student athlete level. Because then, as you said, if there's an issue, sometimes the student athletes will just deal with it, and it may never come to your attention. Sometimes you find out about things months later. Did you know that such and such? And it's usually nothing major, and the student athletes just took care of it. It was their team. They didn't want to see anybody disrupted, but they also didn't want to see anybody left out, or somebody was having a particularly difficult time. They wanted to see that they got through that period of time.
That's awesome. Coach Puett, I wanted to ask about in Western North Carolina, there seems to be a whole lot of experience, not just at UNC Asheville, and specifically cross country. I have a theory, having run just over 100 meters a couple of times, that having mountain courses, while more tiring, is also more mentally engaging. Is that nonsense, or maybe a little bit?
No, I think you're right. I think that this area attracts a lot of really good coaches and really good athletes. So we just people are brought to this area because of that. Or someone like me who came to college at Western Carolina, I just didn't leave. And so I stayed in the area, and, I enjoyed, when I was being recruited, I enjoyed Western North Carolina, and I came up here, and then now you can't get rid of me. And I'm sure that's kind of the same thing when you look at the colleges around here, even to the high schools. There's a lot of really good high school coaches. Phil Latter, who was an athlete here. He was actually an NCAA regional qualifier for the 5K. He now coaches at Brevard High School. So he went to Radford and coached for a little bit, was out in Colorado, and then went to Swain County, now over at Brevard. And, you've seen a lot of those actually in high school. The previous Brevard coach actually came from the same high school that I did in Huntsville, Alabama. So, I think this area just attracts people.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Williams, you've coached an Olympian in 2016, right?
Correct.
Okay. What's just from the eye test, if you see, was it Ristic? Is that right?
Ristic, yeah, close.
Ristic. Okay.
And I'm trying to speak like a Serbian would, but obviously I'm not a Serbian. But.
Yeah. Thankfully, I don't have to pronounce people's names for a living. Yeah. So when you see an athlete that is capable of Olympic level competition, what's the leap between NCAA level competition and Olympic level competition?
I mean, there are NCAA competitors that do reach that within college. It's not common. Usually it's still going to be a few more years, but we definitely have some people. Now we're typically not getting those people here because those are the people that have tremendous amount of options, and maybe we don't have the tradition that a lot of those schools have, but maybe we're working towards getting some of that ourselves. But a lot of times, because it's not an extremely lucrative sport unless you're at the very, very top, there's almost no reason for a lot of kids to keep going on, even if they see the Olympics as a possibility, because at that point, maybe it's just a possibility. Of course, it's never a guarantee for anyone, but sometimes kids just want to move on to a career. But if that kid sees, and by that time they're no longer a kid, but if they see the possibility of, hey, I can do this, I just need to stay in the sport another few years to realize my potential. And that's nothing, I don't usually have those kind of conversations. Well, it's not like I'm dealing with a lot of people where that would be the case, but not usually dealing with a lot of people that, that would sort of be a situation they would concern themselves with. But that has to come from them. But you can certainly encourage them, say, well, I believe you have this ability. And I wouldn't tell you this. I wouldn't waste your time and my time if I didn't believe that was in the cards. So it's just, a lot of these things are very, very long-term processes. And you got to have a student athlete and just a person who is willing to see things through in the long term. A lot of times people want, immediate results, and the best performances are usually the result of many, many years of training, even from age 10 or 12 or 14 on to mid 20s, late 20s. So it's not going to happen overnight, but if people can see, hey, I'm chipping away at this. And Milan, for example, he ended up beating out a lot of kids that when he was a junior, he was a good junior, but there was a lot of kids in Europe that were destroying him that he surpassed. And they weren't enemies of his, these were friends of his, but it was sort of gratifying for him to be able to see how much he had leapfrogged some of these people.
It is a long process, sort of the hard work, and then it seems like small changes. You're shaving a tenth of a second off your time here, which is actually a gigantic jump. Does it take a special kind of person to understand that I'm going to be doing a lot of things and the process is going to be long, it's going to be grueling, and I'm not going to see that instant reward, that instant gratification? Or is that a sort of a mindset that can be taught?
I think you can evolve into that. Maybe if early on, when you're young, you probably get fairly quick results, and then you realize as you get better, while you haven't necessarily reached your genetic potential, you realize, okay, things aren't going to come as easy as they used to, just because you were getting closer to your genetic potential. But then you realize too, in what we call a multilateral program, a program that has a lot of different ways or a lot of different avenues for improvement, that if you just minimally improve in 6 or 8 different categories, that's going to have a colossal, like, cumulative effect on your overall performance. So how can I do this drill a little bit better? How can I do this lift a little better? How can I, and there's just, like, again, so many different things. So it's not simply running. There's so many different ways they can improve, which can then directly transfer into their, or even indirectly into their performance.
Coach Puett, with long distances, would you rather have a athlete that has fantastic mental game and is technically a nightmare, or would you rather have somebody who's just like, my legs hurt, so I'm not going to run for a little bit, but their form is perfect? Which one's going to be easier to teach, the mental side or the technique side?
Oh boy, that's a good question. Hadn't really thought about that one. I would probably still like to have the person that is technically sound, just because over time, I feel that you could start working on that mental component. So if somebody, has 2 left feet, there's not going to be a lot that I'm ever going to be able to do with them as an athlete, and that's just the part of it. You can get them better, but there's still going to be a very big ceiling. But over time, and I think if you can work on, that goes back to a team culture, that you can push on people in workouts and work on mental toughness over time. I think that's where I would probably have it.
It is a grueling training session, both in the field side of things, the short distance sprinting side of things, but also the long distance. That's a lot of, in practicing, potential for injury. How hard is it to sort of mitigate practicing hard and getting athletes ready? Because this is a sport that really doesn't have an off season. You have about 17 minutes in November, and then it's fall, winter, spring. There's some aspect of these sports that's going on. Coach Williams, we'll start with the field portion and the short distances first. Is it hard to sort of walk that line of making sure, practicing really hard, but understanding that you want to stay away from the injuries whenever possible?
Yeah, it can be. And there's certain things you can do to sort of offset the risk. For one, easing into your program, particularly in this era, in this time, because we've come off months of inactivity. Hopefully people have been doing an off-season program, but you never know. You never really know until they actually get here. So you can sort of offset that. We always err on the side of caution. So if it's an athlete that we know doesn't just, and most of them are good about this, sometimes you'll have an athlete that's just going to say something just to get out of stuff. But for the most part, we don't deal with those kind of people. They're not in your program. Sometimes we have to protect athletes from themselves because they're so motivated that I think I can do this next one. Well, yeah, you could, but should you? And if I have any question about that, and they may really want to do it, I often opt to just, you know what, we're not going to do it. I'd rather not get an answer to a question that we don't need to know that answer. If we can cut 1 rep short and still reduce your risk, then that's good. That's a good practice.
Coach Pruitt, with long distance running, it's a lot of impact, repetitive impact, and the only real way to train for running really, really far is to run really, really far. Is it tough to walk that line of, or is, I guess there's established practice from the past where we've seen, hey, this works. This is a good way to get up for the big events. But each individual is different. Is it tough to walk that line?
Yes, it is. And I think to even kind of compound upon what Coach Williams said, it's, you have to take a long-term approach, but also make sure that you're not continuously taking people to the well. I like to have a lot of conversations with people on, when you're coming out of high school, what was your volume out of high school? What were some of the big workouts that you did? What was some of your longest runs? And I don't try to raise volume much over that first semester, first year, because of some of the other things that we're doing, whether it be in the weight room or general strength work, whether it be mobility, flexibility. I always say that, these are things that are going to help build a stronger frame. You may not see those benefits immediately, but it's going to help build this strong frame that then over the long run, you're going to be able to add some of that volume if that's something that we feel like is important. I feel like middle distance runners are sometimes probably the most difficult to actually figure out, because you can have a middle distance runner that is more on the fast twitch muscle side. And so they need to be more sprint oriented and lower volume, where, I've trained middle distance runners that have run 70, 80 miles a week. So, sometimes they train like a 10K runner for 3/4 of the year. And then all of a sudden right there at the end, okay, we start, running more fast work, more really race specific work. And they kind of, sharpen up real quick. So there's some of the ones that are actually, I think, the most difficult, where you have to walk that fine line, because an 800-meter race is a long time to sprint. And when you get to the world championship level, that is a sprint. And even on the top end of the NCAA for men, you come through your first 400 meters at 50 to 52 seconds. That's fast. And so you have to have, that speed, but then you have to have the endurance. And even the 1500 meters or the mile is that same ballpark. Like, you got to be able to run fast for a mile. And, how do you train that for each individual? So I'll have middle distance runners that do workouts with 10K runners, and then 10K runners that will hop down and run with the middle distance runners. And, I have training groups and, spreadsheets that have 5, 6 different groups of volume. So one group may be doing a 2-hour long run, and one group may be doing a 1-hour long run. It's just kind of what they need and what's going to help them grow.
I think my most recent 800-meter time could be measured more accurately with a calendar than a stopwatch. Although I did want to say about a 400-meter dash, I missed the ice cream truck a couple of weeks ago. I did not bad. I caught him.
Yeah, extra motivation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What is, and I'm going to ask both of you, this time I'm going to start with Coach Puett. What is the hardest part of your job?
The hardest part is probably finding the motivation to do all the things like the office work. I'm good at it. It doesn't bother me, but it's not necessarily like why you got into the business of doing all the time logs and, all the ordering and little things like that. Nobody got into coaching to do those things unless, I guess there's people, in basketball, you kind of have the dobo, and some people are good at it and that's what they want to do. But, the fun part of my job is, being out there with the student athletes and getting to know them and seeing them grow. And I kind of realized over our COVID time and quarantine is that I really miss the travel. That's sometimes the part that it kind of beats up on you the most, where, you're gone for long periods of time and you still have to come back on a Sunday and, show a recruit around, and you come back to Monday morning and you've got weights and practices. You don't get a break ever. But I did realize over this, man, I really enjoy going to track meets and enjoying my time with the kids and staying in hotels and just traveling around.
Coach Williams, I see you nodding about the paperwork side of things.
Oh, yeah.
One of the more difficult.
Fortunately, Coach Puett, that's something he's very, very good at. And but I mean, obviously, we're each going to have to do our part. That is definitely not my strength. I don't know if I have a strength, but if I do, that's probably not it. Trying to figure my way around an Excel document or anything else. Word, I'm pretty good at, but of course, it doesn't take any skill. Yeah, I would say the same. None of us got into the sport for that. That's thinking about scholarship renewals and things like that. When we got into coaching, that wasn't why we were doing it. We were doing it just for the sport itself. But you come to realize too that it's part of the deal. In order to make these things happen, these things had to be done.
Pretty mean to keep coaches of running in an office, but I can't imagine something that would be tougher. Yeah, paperwork would have been my answer if I'm in your shoes too. Necessary evil, but no, how's that fun? If you weren't coaching track and field, Coach Williams, would you go back to football, or what other sport would you coach?
If we're talking about another sport, I think I'd get into strength conditioning, because I love that aspect of training. And in fact, secondary to being a track coach, I've always considered myself a strength coach. I've always tried to stay on top of latest developments and research and those kind of things. So I think as far as like having an impact on athletes, as much as I like football, I think from my time coaching it, I actually enjoy it more as a fan. And I would definitely go the strength and conditioning route for sure.
What about you, Coach Puett?
If I had to pick another sport to coach, it'd probably be basketball. That's one I probably enjoyed playing the most. Maybe I wasn't really good at any other sport. The only reason I was good at sports is because I was fast and had endurance, so I could just play hard late in the game. But basketball was probably my favorite, so I think that's where I'd probably gravitate towards.
I was going to say the things that you just mentioned. Coach Clifton Bush has told me are some of the most important things about soccer are the endurance and the being able to be still fast in the last 20 minutes of a match. Any thought about soccer?
I put soccer probably up there. I played soccer. I played club for a little bit, but I still wasn't that good. I was defense, and they kind of just put me back there because I could run hard, but I still didn't have the ball skills to really do any damage. So I think, yeah, it probably would be soccer or basketball, but I think I enjoy basketball as a sport probably more.
Coach Williams, if you were made to go to another university, any university that you could coach at, where would it be if the Bulldogs were ruled out?
I'd give you a list of 3. How about that?
That'll work.
I would say App State, where I graduated. I would say Georgia Tech. My sister graduated, and I've always had an affinity for that school. And anybody that knows me knows I'm a big Michigan fan. So University of Michigan would be the other choice.
Coach Puett, what about you? If you couldn't be a Bulldog, what would you be?
I'd probably say I'd be a lumberjack. I'd go to Northern Arizona. That area, there's a lot of places to run and train. You know, I do like the West. So I think I'd probably pick that area.
To close out the Thursday 30 brought to you by Ingles Markets, low prices, love the savings. One thing we love to do is to just leave with positivity. And so we're just putting positivity out to the world. We imagine best case scenario. Everything goes right. What could happen, whether it's this season and the next couple of seasons? I'll give you an example. An anonymous donor comes through with enough money for what needs to be done so that UNC Asheville can host track and field competitions. That happens in the next 3 years. That's my putting that out to the world. What would that change things at Asheville? Let's just say that happened. I don't know. Maybe it will. Coach Williams, how does that change if that happens, having on-campus events?
Having the potential to have on-campus events would be huge. The first thing it would do would be it would improve just the training environment for our own team. Also, it's open to the city, so the city would have that available to the public, would have that available to them as well. But having events would be incredible because it's a great recruiting tool. People would come to campus that might not otherwise need to come to campus. Anything we can do to sort of strengthen the track and field community, because we both believe strongly in that in cross country as sports, make Western North Carolina even stronger than it is, and we could sort of be a center for track and field. But those would be really important things that we could add to what the school is able to do, but also just as a way of generating revenue for your program. And that's the thing. If you go to a meet, you have to pay for travel expenses. If it's overnight, hotel expenses, meal expenses, meet entries. When you host a meet, you're taking away, other than food, you're taking away all those expenses, and you're bringing in money. So those would be like incredible things to help us be a more self-reliant program where you don't have to depend on the department to fund you. And the department funds is fine. That's not an issue. But if we could do that, then it would probably alleviate a lot of issues. The athletic department might be able to give more money to different sports, or maybe sponsor other sports if they want to do that. So there'd be so many benefits to having that as a possibility.
Coach Puett, having that home meet. I know right now cross country does have some facilities fairly local that they can use. Is it nice to be? Would it be nice to have those like your facilities that you can use on campus as opposed, or just having some options would be good?
Yeah, I mean, we've been able to host home cross country meets out of Asheville Christian Academy for years. We've hosted the Big South Conference championships for cross country, but then being able to host a Big South Conference championships for track and field, being able to have that event here at home. I was in facilities here at UNC Asheville for a while, so getting to see the men and women play home championships here, and having that home court advantage is so key to being successful. And we have a really great team, and being able to put that event on and being able to have your home crowd being able to watch that. Professors come and watch their students compete and win championships would be really special. But even to compound upon that, it's not just helpful for us as a track team or athletics department. It's recruiting for our university in general. We would be hosting high school track meets where 10% of those people may be recruited athletes, but 100% of those could be recruited to come to your university. So those are people that are now stepping foot on our campus and saying, oh my goodness, I didn't even know this place existed, but I love it here. Or, hey, yeah, I came for an engineering event, and now I know they have these complexes here as well. And man, I really want to come to school here. And so I think that as we as a university just keep growing and being able to branch out into the entire Western North Carolina, the region, the United States, more and more people want to come here. And I think that we could help with that in track and field.
Absolutely. I see that as a no lose situation. So if you're out there watching and you're like, hey, I was just thinking, how can I make a huge difference at UNC Asheville? I'm just saying. So that's been put out there to the world. That is out there. Positivity has been spoken. Coach Puett, on the cross country side, let's put some positivity out to the world.
Well, I think we have a really good group of people coming back. We did lose a couple seniors last year, and that's part of the game. You want to graduate people. Our men's team's going to be young, but probably the most talented group we've had in a very long time. So I'm excited about that. And we have some upperclassmen on the women's side that are coming back that I've seen really grow over the last couple of years. So it's going to be fun to see them mature and be able to help our younger women come in and be able to make a run at a conference championships.
Making a run of the conference championships. Okay, so that we're going to extrapolate that as winning the conference championship. That is his. I may be putting words in your mouth, Coach Puett, but I think that let's speak positivity to the world. Coach
Absolutely.
Williams, let's speak positivity to the world.
I'd say this is easily, in the years I've been here, this is easily the most talented group that's ever come into this recruiting class, combined with last year's group. And even, like I said, we have some really good kids, just we didn't have as many as we needed to be successful as a team that are, juniors and above. And some of them really have developed well beyond what they came in as. But this group coming in right here could really turn us around. Like there's, on the men's and women's team, both, there's a lot of talent. Like I said, every year we get good kids. We just, because the classes tend to be smaller, we don't tend to get as many good kids as it takes to not only have those people be really competitive, but to create a competitive environment within your culture within your program. So this is, I'd say, easily the best, the most talent on paper group I've ever seen. Now it's up to us as coaches and them as athletes to come in here and do the work and make that happen. So after I've said all that, we need to produce.
If everything goes right, everyone hits their capabilities, what's the ceiling for this team?
So what, indoors we finished 5th for both teams. I don't want to say there's a ceiling. I will say things, and we're just talking about this year. We could win a championship. We probably have enough. They're going to be very young, but we have enough talent where things fell right and we do our part. We could, you never know. But and then going forward, things are going to get a lot more challenging as when North Carolina A&T comes to the conference, because they compete with as an HBCU, they've been extremely competitive with Power 5 schools. And, So things are going to get tougher going forward, but we're going to try to get better too. So it's not like we're going to just allow just other teams to just like, oh, well, they're going to be too good for us. I mean, they're a great program, and every year they have incredible performances. And I know everybody else, the whole conference is probably looking forward to the day where they come in, just because they're going to elevate the conference. But we could be very good this year for sure. And like I said, that's not really much of an answer, but you don't know how things will play out, of course.
Sure. Yeah.
We have a lot of potential on this team for sure.
I like that you said that you didn't want to put a ceiling on it. I think that told me what I needed to know about you saying it's a young team. I don't want to put pressure on them, but I also don't want to put a ceiling on them. I don't want to tell them what they can and can't do.
Right.
And that to me is pretty, it tells me everything that I need to know about how you feel about your team. I do want to thank Coach Williams and Coach Puett for being on with us for this Thursday 30, brought to you by Ingles Markets. Low prices, love the savings. Congratulations on the officially new positions moving forward. I'm excited to see how this track field cross country team does in the coming weeks and months. A young team and a team that has a whole lot of talent, and I'm excited about it.
Thank
you very much.
And it's a conference, like you said. We haven't even talked about A&T on this podcast, but this is a conference that just keeps getting better in every aspect. And so I'm excited to see what the coming weeks, months, and years brings for all of us. Again, thank you for watching the Thursday 30. Next week, special guest. Don't want to ruin it, so you'll have to tune in. We've had two fantastic guests this week, and again, I thank them for their time.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you very much.